This is Dumont, and I am here to review Classics Megatron. Now, he's not a new figure. He's been out for a long time, so there are tons of videos on him on YouTube already. So hopefully, I'm not going to do anything redundant, and this review is going to be a little bit different. Now, this is what I would call pretty much a historical figure, because this is the first time that we get to see Megatron back in pistol form since the G1 days. And now, the times have completely changed since back then. In the toy making business now, there's like a lot more political stuff going on, and this figure reflects all of those kinds of things, all those controversial issues and stuff like that. So it's very special in that sense. It's not just a gun that transforms into a robot. To me, it reflects the times and basically the politics going on. So it's very, very interesting in that sense. Now, if you compare him to the original G1 Megatron, both of them in their pistol gun form, right? The original was a Walther P-38, and this one, I believe, is a Nerf Maverick is the model. And when I compare their gun modes, how well that they look, how well they transform and stuff like that, I pretty much have to say that they're equal. In the G1 Megatron, there's some things that stand out. The Walther P-38 has a very nice design going around this area, which basically becomes his chest when he transforms into a robot, and that's a very nice design. And in addition, he has like this rifle mode where you could attach the attachments on him, and that's also very, very nice. This one does not have any attachments, so the G1 Megatron gets a little bit of plus for that. But as far as just how well of a gun they become, I really have to say that they're equal. Now, a lot of people would probably disagree with me, but they're not looking at the design. They're not looking at how well it actually looks like what they're supposed to be. They're looking at the actual model. So they're comparing the Walther P-38 and the Nerf gun Maverick, which is basically not equal. Obviously, the Walther P-38 is way cooler, but you have to understand, at this time, they could not do that. They could not really do a gun, a real life gun, and make it look good or make it look close to the real thing, because then they're going to have all these legal issues with it. So that's why you see this safety orange going on right here, which is, you know, a lot of people hate it, but like I said, to me this is a reminder of, you know, this pretty much these hypocritical laws going on in society today. So and they had to go with this Nerf gun, which, you know, I don't want to slam them, but at the same time I do understand what they had to deal with. So, you know, I applaud the toy designers for going, you know what, we have to deal with all this, but still we're going to try to make this gun. So I applaud them for that, you know. And I'm not really going to attack society, you know, for having laws like that. You know, it's very complicated, obviously. You know, I cannot solve the issue. You know, I could easily say they're dumb and stuff like that, but, you know, it's a difficult matter. But this gun reflects all of that. So the G1 Megatron obviously had no problems. You know, they just picked a gun that they thought was historically significant, which it is. It's very, very cool. The Walther P-38 is spy-like. You know, I believe James Bond's original gun was a Walther PPK. So, you know, Walther P-38 is like its cousin. So that's a very awesome, sleek gun that they chose. Now, for our modern times, I wish they had chosen something like, okay, like let's say an Uzi would have been great. And I understand with a Uzi this size, there's no Uzi that's this size. So I'm sure the police or anyone would have been able to tell that that's not a real gun, hopefully. But anyway, like I said, with this, you have to think about the controversial stuff, the legal stuff, the politics going on, and then you can appreciate the gun mode much, much better. But as far as just simple, how good is it as a gun, how good does it look compared to the original Nerf Maverick, I think they did a really, really good job. Okay, I skipped through his transformation. Like I said, you could see all that stuff on other videos many times. I can tell you that his transformation is excellent. It's quite challenging. It's very, very interesting, and I think it's one of the most fun Transformers to actually transform. It's actually fun to do it, and like I said, it's challenging enough, at least for me, but it's not to the point where it's frustrating. So it's an A+ just on his transformation alone. Now let's take a look, at the actual figure itself. As you can see right here, he has excellent articulation just for him to hold his pose. You know he's got to have awesome articulation. Now the original G1 Megatron is something that I would say is that he looks excellent in gun mode and he looks horrible in robot mode. This one right here is something that I would say he looks excellent in gun mode and he looks excellent in robot mode. So I do feel that this one has indeed surpassed the original. Now people have complained about certain things about this guy. One of the things is the wings and the color of the wings, this translucent greenish thing going on. And they've also complained about obviously the safety orange, but I told you that's a political thing. In fact, I'm proud that it has that on there because it reminds me of the crap that was going on, so I like it. But the other thing is the fact that his cannon is actually on the bottom of his hand or something. You could put it to the side by twisting his arm and stuff, but they want it on the top like it was in the cartoon, which I think would actually hurt the articulation. But that's a major problem for a lot of people, and I would say, you know what, get over it, because it's not like the original G1 Megatron looked like the cartoon anyway. And if you compare who looks more like the actual cartoon, this one hands down anyway. That's a small sacrifice, okay? And as far as the wings go, Megatron, if you remember in the cartoons, often flew with the other Decepticons and stuff. They just soared into the air. So the wings kind of help make sense of that, in my opinion. And the fact that they're this translucent green, it doesn't bother me. It really doesn't. I think the translucent part looks nice, especially with his eyes. You know, I do kind of wanted the red because it makes him more evil. The translucent red would have been nice, you know, but because it's definitely more menacing. But you know what? I cannot complain with the green. It still looks very, very nice. A ring, you know, they were like, the light can come in from the sides and it makes the diamond look better. You know, they apply that to a toy. You know, the light comes in from right here, and that's why all this whole back part right here is translucent, and it makes his eyes glow. And I mean, how genius is that? That is brilliant. That is incredibly brilliant, you know, that he has that. So definitely overall, I would have to say that he is an improvement over the original. Real quick, he has a Minicon port, a peg right here, and he has a port on the other side. The pegs connect better. The port is kind of iffy on one side. It doesn't connect too well. And this scope works. It's a working scope, should I say? No, it's not a working scope, but you can see through it. How about that? And it's a little bit blurry, but just the fact that you can do it is kind of cool.